board meeting. So, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilperson Cassidy.
Here.
Councilperson D'Alessandro.
Present.
Councilperson Franco.
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro.
Present.
Supervisor Hickman.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have on the agenda to approve the minutes of the July 26, 2014 meeting. Madam Clerk, have you received any additions, amendments, or changes to those minutes?
No, I have not.
There being none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 26, 2014 as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Under receipt and file, we have a couple items tonight. A letter from U.S. Energy Concierge requesting a change regarding an easement on Katie's Way. The letter kind of explains it's from the Energy Concierge, a solar company. They would like to install panels. Unfortunately, I believe that there's a drainage easement where they want to install the panels. They've written us a request. I would refer this to the town engineer and the town attorney for review and ask them to come back with their thoughts on this request. So that's under receipt and file. And also under receipt and file, I had a couple requests over the last few weeks, one about a speed limit, one about eliminating jake brakes, restricting jake brakes in the town of East Fishkill in the hamlet. And I know that we always get requested from Hillside Lake, a gentleman from Hillside Lake requests to lower the speed limit in Hillside Lake. What I propose tonight on the resolutions for the other two issues, the jake brake, actually we have received a petition of people, property owners, requesting that. And the other one came from a woman who had a concern about accidents out on Route 82 by Pierce Arrow Road. And I believe everybody got a copy of the police report. There really wasn't enough to establish a clear need. I think it was 22 accidents over a 2-year period. But I drove out there, and I could see what she says from, say, Clover Branch Road, Creamery Road out to Taconic has gotten quite grown up. There's a lot of residential houses. And that one, I'm just going to request DOT to take a look at it because that's their road, but I would request them to take a look at that. But that being said, we come back to the Hillside Lake request to lower the speed limit. One gentleman has requested that we would lower the speed limit in Hillside Lake. So I'd like to just submit a letter to the residents of Hillside Lake to see what their feeling on it is. If everybody's in agreement, then certainly we would request from the Commissioner at DOT the authority to lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. So I did put a request to lower speed limit in Hillside Lake memo in your packets, and we could send out a mailer in the next few weeks to get the residents' views if the town board is okay with that.
John, I have a suggestion with that. For
Sure.
that, can we add in there if speed bumps is an option also? I know I spoke with the town attorney, and that could be done if the community accepts. Since we are going to be mailing something about the speed, if they're willing, that's another option to look at.
Okay.
And these speed bumps are seasonal. We take them out in the winter.
Okay.
I mean,
But I would discuss that with the highway superintendent also. The speed, I think, is under our purview. But absolutely, I have no problem with that. I'd just like to include Highway Superintendent Miller in the conversation, too. But absolutely, if the residents in Hillside Lake would like speed bumps, and you're talking about speed bumps on the town road.
right.
Okay.
I had spoken to Mr. Miller, and he said that if the town attorney will look into that. And today I spoke to Tom. I said it's something that could be done if in case the people in the neighborhood are willing to accept
Okay.
the
You
noise.
spoke to the highway superintendent about this also?
Yeah, he had
Okay.
referred me to go to
Okay,
Tom.
this is the first I've heard about it, so I'm a little, I
So,
didn't
mean,
expect it.
yeah, if we're going to do a mailing, I know these things
Oh,
are
yeah, no, I have no
expensive.
problem with that.
We could solve two things
Oh,
at once.
absolutely. I was just going to say we should include the highway superintendent,
Right.
but you already have. So you
Yeah.
guys took me by surprise. So absolutely, absolutely. If the highway superintendent doesn't mind, if the residents in Hillside Lake would like speed bumps, I'd have no problem with that. And we could do that along with the survey on the speed. So absolutely, we'll include that.
Thank you.
All right, and that's it under receipt and file. Public hearings, there are no public hearings tonight. Next item on the agenda is public comments on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on any item on the agenda? Yes.
Good evening, board members, audience members. My name is Claudia Heckert. I'm the tax receiver here in East Fishkill. I've had the pleasure of working with several of you folks and several folks in the audience for in excess of 7 years now, and it truly has been my pleasure to serve. One of the things that makes it my pleasure to serve are the people with whom I work. Carol Hooray and I have run together since the very beginning. I have seen Carol's office come from the earliest stages of technology to a fully functioning, very fast-paced, accurate, dependable office. One of the things that makes it such has been her choice in staffing. I am very proud of the choices that she's made for her staff, both with Lori, who's in the office, and Caroline, who is on the agenda for tonight. I would consider it a pleasure and an honor to see Caroline working in the town clerk's office on a daily basis. I think she would serve the public and serve the constituents of our town to the best of her abilities, as she's done for the last 6.5 years. It would behoove everybody sitting on the town board to unanimously consider her application for full-time employment and make a statement with that unanimous decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else in the audience like to speak?
Hi, I'm Lori Ferrara, Deputy Town Clerk. I highly recommend also hiring Caroline Ciaccio in Carol's office. I've worked with Caroline for the past 2 years. Carol has been very knowledgeable, very reliable, and she's a pleasure to work with, and she's an asset to Carol's office. I highly recommend her as full-time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Marty, are you going to recommend Carol also?
No.
Just asking.
Marty, that's just wrong.
Sure I would.
Only kidding, Caroline, only kidding.
Are you speaking out against her, Marty?
I want to ask you a question. How are you going to put speed bumps on a public road?
Well, you know, we had looked at years ago, but Tom, I don't think in the past.
Well,
That's unheard of.
what it is not in the regular DOT manual of speed control devices, but if you look around, I would say there's dozens of communities that are experimenting with it in different ways. And as I said to the councilman today, it's not the traditional speed bump, it's like a speed table or a hump. It's actually the reverse of it that towns have been experimenting with, and usually they adopt a policy and they have certain guidelines and standards. So we'll report back to the board on that and give the outline of it, but it is becoming more accepted in various communities in the state.
Okay, then I'd like to make a statement. If Hillside Light can get them, I want them on Clover Branch, on Creamery Road.
You want, speed bumps on Creamery Road
That's
also?
right.
All right, is any other public comments on, any other public comments on agenda items? Okay, there being none, we get to the, come to the part of the agenda with the resolutions. The first resolution is to authorize the hiring of a full-time clerk in the town clerk's office to fill a vacancy. Previously, one of our longtime clerks had retired. We had filled one position. We had one full-time and 2 part-time positions. We're contemplating tonight filling it with having 2 full-time positions. Because the person that had left, I had asked our controller to do an analysis of it, and by staffing in this way will actually still save us possibly around $14,000 a year. And I would have to say one thing about Caroline. She's been with us, I believe, 6 years. She's done a terrific job. Caroline is somebody that interfaces, especially with Central Hudson. When I have a request about a light, I generally go, Caroline, can you deal with the Central Hudson issue? She deals with a lot of these things, and she's been doing it for several years. Matter of fact, a few years ago, she found a mistake with Central Hudson. She actually recovered $19,000 for the town of East Fishkill. So She's efficient, and I think she does a terrific job, and she has been here for, I believe, 6 years. So the resolution reads, whereas a deputy town clerk's position has been filled and left a vacant position in the clerk's office, the town clerk has requested that Caroline Ciaccio be appointed to the position effective September 12, 2014. Caroline will be hired as a full-time clerk with salary and benefits per the CSEA contract. Do I have a motion to appoint Caroline Ciaccio to full-time clerk?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
John, if I may, I just want to address the fact that, I mean, I'm not opposed to this, but we had entertained the idea of a discussion as far as future employees of the town, and I haven't seen the discussion. I saw that Carol had requested that we fill this position, but unfortunately, the town has not discussed this issue. So, as I said, you know, she's a great worker, and I would like to see a discussion in the future when we are doing these kind of moves. I mean, that we do have a discussion of sharing services that will be saving the town of East Fishkill a lot of money in the future. So I would like to keep that for the plan for the future hiring.
We always look to, I think anybody looks at the town of East Fishkill, we always keep our staffing very low. I don't believe we're overstaffed in any area. We are very mindful of the fact, that's why we do these calculations as to if you're going to replace somebody, what is going to be the overall cost of the budget. Obviously, the town clerk, being an independently elected official, she requests something from the town board. And I think, you know, any town board member would like to discuss it with her. I mean, everybody has the opportunity to stop in the office, you know, and just ask her. I mean, as far as that kind of discussion, everybody's more than welcome. We don't do a lot of staffing. As you see, this is really just replacing a longtime employee here. I do know that we try to do our best as far as staffing, keeping it to a minimum. And also, I think part of that, too, is hiring the right people. You know, making sure the people that you get do a good job. And I got to tell you that when you have good people, things just work a whole lot more efficiently. And you know what? You don't see that in the hours put in, or you don't see that in the annual pay. But you see that in the customer service. You see that in the little things every day that we see that I think really makes the town very special. So I appreciate your comments. Certainly, as I said, Carol is an independently elected official, and any town board member is more than welcome to go into our office and discuss any staffing. And as we go forward with staffing, we certainly will keep that in mind. So,
thank you.
That being said, motion a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Caroline. So when Marty asks me about a street light, who do I go see? Caroline. So thank you very much. All righty. Number 2 is to set a public hearing for October 23rd, 2014, regarding the industrial zone permitted uses. Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read the resolution, please?
Sure. Whereas the town board has previously discussed the need to modify and expand the various permitted uses allowed in the industrial zones of the town, and specifically to encourage the development of previously developed sites, and the town board has circulated a draft of certain amendments to the town planning board and the county planning board and have received their comments. And it is the desire of the town board to hear comments of the public with respect to the proposal. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby set a public hearing for October 23rd, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. at the beginning of their regularly scheduled town board meeting to hear public comments on the proposal by the town board to amend the industrial zones of the town for economic development purposes, and that the town clerk being hereby is authorized and directed to advertise and publish appropriate notices with respect hereto.
Great, thank you very much, Councilman. Do I have a motion to set a public hearing for October 23rd regarding industrial zone permitted uses?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Sooner the better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Number 3 is to set a public hearing for September 25th regarding the Cablevision contract. Cablevision being the cable provider in the town of East Fishkill. It is a time when their contract is coming due, 2015. We've had some issues over the last couple of years with them. We sat down and talked with them about the contract. And Tom, and Mark and I discussed this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but really when you get, like you take a look at the resolution, this is not a typical resolution. I think it was drafted by PSC, Public Service Commission.
Right, well, the resolution that's attached with the packet would be a
Yeah.
resolution for consideration after the public hearing. Tonight, you'll just be scheduling it
Right,
for a public
but what
hearing.
I'm saying is that when you talk about Cablevision, you know, everybody says, well, the town has to sign a contract.
Right.
We really don't have a lot of flexibility. It's not like we're negotiating. A lot of this mandated by the Federal Communications
Right,
Corporation.
Congress has preempted you
Yeah.
from having anything to do with the cost.
Yeah.
With programming selections. So really, all this does is allow it to be within the franchise, the roads of the town.
Yeah.
And obviously, since we don't have Verizon in most of the town, we don't have Fios. And Cablevision is the supplier of both cable and internet service.
And computer. And this is the one reason I wanted to bring this up is because, you know, again, these contracts are, you know, pretty much governed by the FCC and PSC. But we've always wondered, in the one paragraph, third paragraph down, whereas Cablevision or its predecessor, with the approval of both the town and New York State Public Service Commission, acquired certain assets from AT&T Corp. as successor in interest to U.S. Cablevision Corp., including the cable system in the town. So, on January 3rd, 2001, Cablevision acquired the cable system in the town, which is why we have Cablevision. You know, people say to me, well, why isn't Verizon here? And I say, well, I don't think they own the cable, but we could never actually get to the bottom. We've looked at our old contract, but could never find that. And here in this resolution from the Public Service Commission, they actually note when Cablevision purchased the cable in the town of East Fishkill. So at least I know when it happened, I know who they bought it from, and I know they do own it. And we will consider, and the gentleman from Cablevision will be here at the public hearing to talk about the contract, the proposed contract. So I just want to set that out because that's the first time I ever saw that, including the cable system in the town. So I thought that was very interesting. As the attorney points out tonight, we're just setting a public hearing for this. Do I have a motion to set the public hearing for September 25th, 2014 regarding the Cablevision contract?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Very good, very good. Number 4, resolution number 4. Councilman Cassidy, would you read that resolution? And then I would ask the attorney to maybe...
How long that is, Tom?
Oh, that's a long one.
That's a long one.
Why don't you edit it, just to whereas?
Whereas, just break out the whereas.
Further resolved.
Yeah. Delete the...
That's not right.
Okay.
Whereas Toll Brothers previously received approval from the Hopewell Glen subdivision, and whereas the approval of said subdivision in the Hopewell Glen Water District established by the town, and whereas the agreement was entered into with Dutchess County Water Waste Authority for the purchase of water for the Hopewell Glen Water District, and whereas certain issues with respect to the water source have arisen when made it appropriate for the developer to seek other sources, and whereas the approval of the Hopewell Glen subdivision acquired the construction of the storage tank in the subdivision to services and subdivision at an approximate cost at developer of $750,000. And whereas, as part of the development of the Cannon Field to the town, it was determined that sufficient water supply would be available to service the Hopewell Glen Water District, the water needs over and above 50,000 gallons currently being drawn from Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. And whereas in constructing the Cannon well fields, certain modifications can be made would cause the elimination of the need for separate water storage tank in the Hopewell Glen subdivision. And whereas the developer is willing to enter into an agreement with the town wherein they will contribute the cost of the water tank, $750,000, plus an additional $200,000 contribution toward the construction of the Cannon well fields. And whereas upon hookup the Cannon well fields and the users within, the Hopewell Glen Water District will pay water rates which will pay the cost of the operation and the development of the Cannon well fields. And
Another page?
I know, the attorney is writing the thing, you know.
Tom got rambunctious.
Tell the story.
And whereas it is appropriate with the agreement of the developer and the time clearly set for the agreement, since the developer's obligation to construct the commences in 103 certificate of occupancy. Now therefore be resolved that the supervised be and hereby is authorized to execute an agreement with Toll Brothers with respects to the development of the Hopewell Glen subdivision, and the Water District would provide for the elimination of the water tank with the Hopewell Glen subdivision and the contribution of Toll Brothers to the town Cannon well fields is $750,000. An additional $200,000 shall be contributed by the developer to the Hopewell Glen to the Cannon well field project. That said agreement shall provide and be available in the issuance of the 103 certificate of occupancy approximately at the end of 2015, that the water system within the Hopewell Glen subdivision shall be modified so as to allow a blending of the Cannon Wellfield water with the water from the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority to be eliminated any issues with respect to the water supply. Be it further resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to finalize the agreement and to provide the town board with a fully executed copy of the same.
Thank you, Councilman. I just asked, I know that was a lot. Now, maybe
Sweating.
the attorney won't write such long resolutions next time. What this does actually, as everybody knows, we purchased the Cannon property across the street. We did find that had a tremendous amount of water over there. That being the case, we're developing this water with the hope that the EPA will use this for our Ryan Drive Superfund site to provide water for that. In the meantime, Toll Brothers had these obligations to build a tank, and there were some issues, as we all know, with the Dutchess County water. So they have expressed an interest, and instead of building their tank, if they could actually go in with us on the development of the Cannon property well fields. So I think that this really helps us along. We won't have to borrow so much to do the project. It will guarantee Toll Brothers a certain amount of water from the project and then eliminate the need for a tank. So I don't know, Tom, what was their, it's going to be $950,000, I believe, was their contribution. And we actually got a phone call, so everybody knows, from the EPA about a week ago. The EPA is still very interested. They're still doing the design work to hook this up to the Hopewell Precision Superfund site. We're still waiting on Congress. There's a board in Congress that has to act that will designate which Superfund projects will be funded this year. We have a lot of people pushing for this to be one of the funded projects. And if that happens, they also will contribute an amount. And I believe this amount and that amount was actually calculated by a formula put together by
based on what they're using.
Somebody in our engineering department, I'm not sure, but those engineers, you just ask an engineer for a simple formula.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. It could take you a week, and it's not going to be a simple formula, but you know they've covered everything. So I think this is a good thing for the town and for the development of the well fields. So, do I have a motion to approve the agreement with Toll Brothers regarding the contribution to the central water supply project known as the Cannon well fields?
So,
Do I have a second?
second.
Any discussion? Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Since we're talking about getting some money here, weren't we on a short list for Dutchess County for a tank also?
Dutchess County needs a tank for their transmission line, for their water main down there, and they really do. They need and our site actually works very well for them, but it doesn't work as well for us. In the location that they need it is going to be on the other side of the creek, and for us to run infrastructure over there is going to be expensive. And although at one point, a couple years ago, they were very anxious, I think Dutchess County is kind of cool to the idea now until they get some of the kinks worked out in in their water. But certainly, we still own the property. So if
And we
they-
did meet with them several times and
Yeah.
discussed that possibility.
With Bridget
But it
Barkley,
presents
right?
other problems with the mixing of the waters, and they need a separate
Right.
one,
Yeah.
and things like
I
that.
thought that was an option possibly.
Well, yeah, so we offer that to them, and we would still offer that to them. So we'll see how it goes. But you can't mix the waters. So, and
Okay.
that creates some logistical issues, so. But I got to tell you, I think this will help offset a lot of our costs for this well fields.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I was hoping we could have got more from the county.
John,
Well, we'll see what happens with the EPA.
John, I have another question. The money that Toll Brothers is giving to the town, is this sufficient to bring the lines from the Cannon property to the development site?
Yeah.
How much,
That's include the extra 200,000 covers whatever cost, because we, if Scott were here, he'd tell you that they want to bring it out through,
Well, the young engineer could probably tell us.
back out through
He's
Unity
run all
Plaza.
these-
Right. And that's all been analyzed, so
Yeah.
it's all included in that cost. And the good part of it is that the tank facility that would be here would now be able to be used for all our other water districts, because you don't need the tank just to supply them the water. It's more for flow purposes, the pressure and the fire flow, things like that. And this field is being designed to supplement all of our existing districts that are very much in need of supplement of water.
So a lot of our districts
They're
are
very
right
tight.
maxed out, so we
Correct.
really don't have any excess.
so we do cover the cost?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And we've talked about, I think, Johnny, we've talked about different routes.
Yes.
And really, we're just going to be connecting this to that, because
Right.
there's a lot of water main that's already in the ground.
The existing water mains already run close to the Cannon property and all the way out to the back of Unity Plaza.
Yeah.
So,
We're just really
the
making that
connections are
connection
not,
there
that
and this
far
connection
apart.
here. Yeah. So I think it's a great thing, and I really think that this is very helpful for getting the project moving along. Any other discussion, any other questions?
So we're going to be using all that money, or there's going to be leftover? I mean,
Well,
Do we know
the money's
exactly?
going to offset some of the expense that would have been incurred to provide water to the other districts. So it's going to help reduce the cost for the existing taxpayer.
Well, we're going to actually be doing a bond at some point in the next couple of months, probably, because and once we get done with all the numbers, probably going to be a $2.5 million project. So if you get almost $1 million from toll, that helps. Hopefully, the EPA will get their funding through the super fund, and they would have, again, they have probably about $1 million contribution. So as we bring all these in, it's going to lessen what we have to put out. So. Okay, I think, Madam Clerk, do we have a motion and a second?
motion and a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I would just ask the attorney to explain.
Sure, there was, Saxon Woods was a subdivision that was approved by the planning board. One of the conditions of approval is that within the subdivision are certain stormwater drainage, retention facilities, and the like that only service that subdivision. So it's the recommendation of the planning board that the town board form a drainage district so that the future costs of maintenance and repair of those stormwater facilities will be borne only by the property owners of the properties that are benefited by them.
Yeah, and we do this, I know Toll Brothers is another one, they have a stormwater
Correct.
district, lighting district, and such, so it's not unusual and it's becoming more and more the practice, so. But this is from the developer, and the planning board requested that they...
Yes, they made it a
Form this.
condition of their approval.
Okay, so do I have a motion to set a public, and we're only setting the public hearing for October 23rd, 2014, to establish stormwater district for the Saxon Woods subdivision. Do I have a motion to set the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6 is to request from DOT consideration on limits of the use of Jake Brake on Route 82 in the hamlet, and ask for a review of the speed limit on Route 82 from Creamery Road to the Taconic Parkway. As I had previously said, that I had a couple things that kind of come together all at once. There had been a little accident. I wouldn't say little accident, but there was no serious injuries, but there was an accident on Route 82 by Pierce Arrow, and the woman did request that, and I spoke with our police chief, and he thought it was a prudent request to have DOT look at it. And then also had a gentleman stop in, former truck driver, former truck, you call it a trainer, to a teacher of people to drive large trucks, has many miles under his belts, and he brought to my attention the issue of Jake brakes townwide, and we had a little discussion about should it be townwide, and I did ask the gentleman if he would limit the scope. So tonight, what I'm going to ask the board to do, and I would like to ask the clerk if we could just change the wording on the resolution. The resolution will read that town board does request DOT to review the speed limits established by them on Route 82 from Kareem Road to the Taconic Parkway. But I'd like the language on the Jake brake to a little bit stronger, and therefore resolve the town board does hereby request New York State DOT to restrict the use of Jake brakes on Route 82 in the vicinity of the Hopewell Hamlet. And then my question to the board, if they're okay with that change in the verbiage, let's define the Hopewell Hamlet. Would that be from Beekman Road to Lake Walton Road, or would we go from Clover Branch Road to Lake Walton Road? That's pretty much how I see it, you know. And I have to agree with the gentleman that really, when you're on the flats on 82, you really shouldn't have to use a Jake brake anyway. So I would say to the board if we would be okay restricting the use of Jake brakes from, say, Clover Branch Road to Lake Walton Road. I'm just going to throw that out there.
It's a bigger scope. So
it's a bigger scope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I figure that way the truckers see it and say, okay, no Jake brakes. Or on the other hand, and I maybe defer to our police department, does it work better if you have it right at the hamlet? You know, or do we have a couple different postings? So we'll discuss that with the police department and with DOT. I would say the hamlet, we can make it as large as we would like. Low Branch Road, if you're okay, to Lake Walton Road.
Yeah. John, may I make a comment about this?
Sure.
I mean, I want to commend this gentleman for putting together this document. I mean, he did the diligent work and petitioning the town for this local law to be put together, or at least have the DOT look at it. I want to say to the community of East Fishkill that anytime you petition government to restrict your freedom in any way, you are infringing on the freedom of future populations. Certain small laws that we put in place will really chopping up the choices and freedom that the whole community as a whole has, and the impact. So even though it's the gentleman has put together this paperwork and has done a good job. I mean, I come from the city. A lot of communities live next to subways, constantly running 24/7. If anybody lived in New York, they know the kind of noise they make. I am not in favor of this resolution for the simple fact that we are taking freedoms away from the whole population. So, just to make that comment,
Right.
for the record, if we can.
Okay. Yeah, it's always difficult, government. You're trying to protect the rights of some and base it against, you know, it's always a trade-off. You know, you want people to be able to enjoy their quality of lifetime, and you need the truck drivers to be able to slow down on a steep hill. And I think there needs to be a balance that needs to be made. I'm very comfortable with the scope of this request, and if the board is okay with your comments made, note. Any other discussion?
We'd have to amend the noise ordinance.
No, the statute is not governed by the noise ordinance, because the noise ordinance does not govern.
Can't govern
equipment.
vehicles.
It really is totally a DOT issue. As some of you, because you worked on the noise committee, so you recognize that. So, all right.
John, so that the public knows, I've done some of the research on this. I've contacted instructors that they teach trucking and a few of the trucking company. I didn't know what J-Brakes was. And they said that sometimes they don't like to use it, but sometimes it's necessary. a kid running across the street, even a deer or something. That's something that they're not doing willingly, but, you know.
Or they're going too
Again.
fast?
I'm sorry?
Or they're going too fast?
Well, usually a loaded truck, I mean, I don't know how much speed they could pick up. I mean, I have never seen in our neighborhood a truck go very fast. I mean,
Well,
I don't know what the experience of anybody else is, but
I think, and one of the things that I took away from my conversation with this gentleman is, as a truck driver, you need to know how to control your truck, and I do believe the Jake brakes use is not for your typical, is for your more extreme situations where you have elevation grades that are actually pushing your truck.
correct.
So I understand what you're saying, and obviously, I don't want to put anybody in danger, but I think a truck driver should know how to control their truck on a flat grade without a Jake brake. That's my opinion on it. Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, do I have a motion to request review from DOT on the speed limit on Creamery Road above on Route 82 to the Parkway, and restrict the use of Jake brakes in the Hopewell Hamlet, which will be defined as the area from Clover Branch Road on Route 82 to Lake Walton Road on Route 82. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, any further discussion before we vote? Okay, there being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, Councilman Franco, would you read resolution number 7, please?
Whereas the town has traditionally purchased its electrical power from Central Hudson Corporation, the public utility servicing the town, and without electing an individual power carrier, Central Hudson sells power from a vendor selected by them, and whereas the town has had indications from other companies that they may be able to supply the town with power at a lower cost, and whereas it is appropriate to determine as to whether or not it would be possible to save funds by bidding the source of power. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk be and hereby is authorized to advertise for bids for an alternate power supply for electrical services for the town based upon the specifications created by the town engineer and town controller. And be it further resolved that the said bids shall be further summarized and viewed by the town board at a later meeting.
Thank you, Councilman. You know, over the past few years, there's been all these people that want to sell us electricity, and it's become quite a thing. But to be honest with you, last year, the comptroller and I noticed that there was a spike in our electrical rates, which actually was pretty significant over a period. And it went back down. It was just a spike. But that made us think, especially with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission ruling that's in the courts now. They're talking about creating capacity zones. Central Hudson is asking for an increase. It just seems wherever you go, the price of electricity is probably going up. So what I would like to do is bid out to some of these vendors. And I ran into the supervisor in the town of Beekman yesterday. They've been using an alternate vendor for years, and they're very happy with it. And I know the town of Wappingers also had done this 3 or 4 years ago. So, I mean, it's not going to lock us into anything, but I have to say that with the way it looks like electricity rates are going to go, I think it'd be good to have some different options. Also, I would like to point out that some of these, like that solar consortium that sent us the letter, all of these like to put solar panels on, and I would also like to look into if we can have solar panels installed on town buildings. And what I'm told is that will lock us into a longer fixed rate if you have solar panels. So,
Great.
and I'm not sure how to bid this out because the solar panels gets a little bit tricky, but I'd like to entertain some different options for the town. So if we could put this out, bring it back to the town board, maybe at the October workshop, we could talk about it a little bit and see where we go with this. But, you know, we have to do something. We just can't sit here and watch our electrical rates go up. So that being said, do I have a motion to authorize the receipt of bids for alternate power?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Councilman Marinero, would you read resolution number 8, please?
Scheduling a public hearing to consider a local law allowing alternate members of the Architectural Review Board. Whereas the Architectural Review Board is comprised of 5 members, and whereas there have been times when the board was unable to achieve a quorum due to the vacation absences and illnesses, and whereas the planning and zoning boards have a system whereby alternate members are appointed to fill in for regular members during absences, and whereas the Architectural Review Board Chair has requested that the town board appoint an alternate members to the Architectural Review Board, so the board is able to meet on a regular basis. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board will conduct a public hearing on November 6th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. to consider a local law which would allow the establishment of 2 alternate members for the Architectural Review Board, and be it further resolved that the town clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to advertise and publish a notice hereof.
Thank you, Councilman. I'd just like to point out that the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals both have alternates, and it just seems appropriate that the ARB would actually, the Architectural Review Board, the ARB would actually should have that also. So, with that, do I have a motion to schedule a public hearing, consider a local law allowing alternate members to the ARB?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Number 9 is to authorize an option to purchase Beekman Water and Sewer. I had sent out a little blurb to the board, especially to the newer members. We've been talking about purchasing Beekman Water and Sewer ever since I've been here. And just recently, it seems like it may actually be something could happen. Tom, would you like to talk a little bit about what the option means? It's a non-binding option.
Correct.
And
What this does is the property owner has indicated that he would accept, that they would accept $2,750,000 for both systems, and in addition, that they would give a conservation easement over the golf course to forever give up any residential development of the golf course. So the golf course would be forever preserved as a golf course and a country club type use. So that in order for the town board now to go through the process of meeting with the community, holding public hearings, and considering all the aspects of it, this resolution tonight would allow the supervisor to sign an option agreement wherein the owner of the property of the 2 systems agrees to give the town board 6 months to go through their process, and at any time in that 6-month period, the town board can then say, we want to buy and sign a contract. So it locks the owner of the properties in, so that if you go through all this process and he decides not to sell, well, he's still legally bound to sell to you if you choose to exercise. That's all this does.
But if we choose not to purchase...
If you choose not to purchase it, or you do nothing for 6 months, it expires.
And boy, it's been a long back and forth. I mean, the question's always been, there's 27 holes at Beekman Golf Course. Could the property owner actually do away with 9 holes and build so many condominiums? And then we look back on the approvals back in the early 90s and stuff like that. And that was always a big question. Does he have the right to do that? It appears he may have the right to do that. Then there was back and forth on the water and sewer. I think the original price of the purchase of the water, I think he was starting at $7 million. Right. And, so finally, over the years, we've gotten to something which we could actually put to rest the issue about any more development on the golf course. And we have what would look like a price for the with the water and the sewer that actually looks like it would be a fair price. So this just enables us, it locks him in, but enables us to do our due diligence. We would meet with the people in the Beekman Water and Sewer District to talk with them. And if they're in favor, and obviously if they're not in favor, then we wouldn't move forward. But this is an option that we could propose to their community. So. That being said, the combined price, again, is $2,750,000, and that would be for the water, sewer, and the conservation easement. That would definitely say that the 27 holes will not be redeveloped. So, All right, do I have a motion to authorize a non-binding option agreement to purchase Beekman Water and Sewer Companies and would also include the conservation easement?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Tom, you will notify the owner of the Beacon Water and Sewer that we have passed the option. Thank you. Number 10 is to authorize retiring chief of police to retain his firearms.
I'd like to table this.
I think he walked out, and I
Oh, sure,
think
she's gone.
He's gone, I could say it, right?
So, okay, we'd have to call him back in here. So, then
have
standard
any
policy to issue if the member retires 20 years plus good standing. Does that qualify good standing?
I guess so.
Okay, the board's okay tonight. And we're requesting that the town board just grant permission to turn over duty weapons to Brian C. Nichols. There's 2 guns here, and they're both Glocks. That's really all I know. We do have the serial numbers. So do I have a motion to grant the duty weapons to the police department retiree known as Chief Nichols?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Tell the chief he's okay. That's it for the resolutions tonight. There are no budget transfers. So now we will take public comment on general town issues. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to make comment on general town issues? You just please step up to the microphone. Yes, sir.
All I want to know is when you refer to Jake Drake,
Yeah.
what are you referring to? What is
It's
Jake
that, do you ever
Drake?
hear that when a big truck goes by, the electric gas goes, makes that big noise?
Yeah.
Well, actually, what that is because the truck is so heavy and you get all that weight moving at one time,
They drop down.
they use the engine as a brake.
Yeah.
Engine
And they
brake,
have
yeah.
something in there that opens up the exhaust valves, like 2 or 4 cylinders, and makes that when you let off the gas.
All right.
It's annoying, but it's good in the proper situations.
Oh, yeah. I just want to know.
Okay, and my name's not Jake.
Get Jake anyway.
Thank you, Marty. Yes, anybody else in the audience like to speak? Yes, sir, please.
Hi, I'm Robert O'Connor from Hillside Lake. I have one question and one comment, neither of which have to do with the physical Hillside Lake, which
Sure.
I'm sure is a huge relief. First question is about, interestingly enough, about the Hopewell Precision Superfund site that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I first learned about that site a couple weeks or a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
There was an article in the Poughkeepsie Journal, and
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I knew about Shenandoah,
Yeah.
but I didn't know there was this second Hopewell Precision Superfund site.
Unfortunately.
And I was kind of disturbed to learn about it when I looked at a map and I realized that the site of the Hopewell Precision plant.
To go break down Route 82.
Right. And actually, you know, if you drive from there to my house, it's 2 or 3 miles, which is, it's a good distance, but as the crow flies on a straight line,
Yeah.
the distance between Hopewell Precision and my house is like 3/4 of a mile.
Right.
And so this was very disturbing to me to learn that there was a Superfund site so close to where I live.
Sure.
And so I did some research, and I found some kind of a map that the EPA or somebody
Yeah.
did that sort of indicated where the problem was, and it seemed like it moved a little bit to the west towards me, but for the most part, it moved south, which
Yes.
was obviously very bad for some people, but worked out for me. So I guess,
Yeah.
you know, I guess, can I conclude that since I have never been contacted that my water supply is in danger by any federal agency or the town, can I conclude that the problems with the Hopewell Precision have not migrated toward me?
I think well, this is, number one, the Superfund site is an EPA, federal government situation. You know, they're the ones, they have all the meetings. I went to, December 2005 was my first EPA, remember March Horton, our county legislator, we were both at that meeting and with the EPA. You can go on the EPA website, or if you'd like to contact my office, I can give you a contact in the EPA to talk about it. They're very good. They have test wells all over the area.
Can I
They monitor them.
Can I presume that if a problem had been discovered, that they would contact the residents who were potentially affected, right?
Yes.
Oh, I believe they would, yes, yes.
Okay, so if I have not been contacted, I mean, it's a reasonable assumption that I am probably not affected.
Correct. They go out and test the wells in the area that they felt had to be tested.
And the ones that were
Okay.
over the limit, they put these POET systems, point of entry treatment, carbon systems, and actually with that site, they also had radon issues, so they were putting radon filters in some of the home. And I got to tell you, they were very diligent in their work. So if you haven't been contacted, I think you're probably okay.
Okay, that's what I thought was a real good, like I said, I was very disturbed to realize.
Yeah.
Because on a straight line, it's really,
You say, wow.
like, yeah, it's 3/4 of a mile away. I was really very surprised. Just one other comment, this is just my own opinion, you can ignore it if you want, but it's about the rail trail, the Dutchess Rail Trail, you know, it crosses 376 and then it crosses Lake Walton Road. There's something a little bit odd about the way, the signage, you know, if you go on Lake Walton Road, there are signs there that indicate that the cars are required to stop to yield to the people crossing Lake Walton Road. But on Route 376, there is no such requirement. It's just, you know, it's a little bit
It's a little more
inconsistent.
dicey there, isn't it?
Say again?
It's a little more dicey on 376.
Yeah, if you want my opinion on it, I frankly think that the signage on Lake Walton Road is bad. I think it's bad to ask the cars to stop because for a number of reasons. A, you know, you don't want to get into people's heads, especially kids' heads. Right. That if they're going to cross the road, that the cars are going to stop.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, you know, when you drive down that Lake Walton Road, it's kind of it's a fairly significant road. You know, these signs might be easy to miss. You know, so my own opinion would be is that if you get consistency, you don't have the requirement on get rid of the requirement on Lake Walton Road and.
So you have three entities here. It's a Dutchess County Rail Trail.
Right.
Lake Walton is a town road, and Route 376 is a DOT state road.
Okay.
So that might have something to do
Okay.
where
The
county said to us, put these signs up, and yet I don't know what happened with DOT. So.
Okay, I
couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's getting better because people know about the 376. Because I always go up there and I see people that are a lot better. And I had actually written a letter to the county executive. I think Mr. Grassel here brought this up when it first opened. And I had written a letter to Dutchess County about our concerns about the signage there on 376. And that's really what we got.
Okay,
I think on 376, if you walk the rail trail, they put stop signs for the people, the pedestrians.
Right.
I mean, I understand what you're saying about the kids, but you cannot, a teenager should be able to read a sign. It's very difficult for a car to slow down and yield to a pedestrian that just keeps on walking. I mean, they put a stop sign over there, so they should slow down, look around, and when it's safe to cross. Because we have people that don't live in a town, and they come from outside.
Right.
So I think that people should be responsible when they go on those trail rails, that at the point of crossing, that they should look for traffic oncoming. Kids right now, they use their phone while they're driving. I mean, their life is their life, and they should be responsible for their life. We could put signs all over the place, but at the end of the day, it's my responsibility to guard my life.
Yeah, I understand.
There were signs over there at one time on 376. They took them out, but they do have stop signs for the pedestrians.
Right, yeah.
Of course.
Okay, just a comment. That's it.
very much.
Thank you.
Pedestrians got a red one.
Any other public comments on general town issues? Yes, Sam.
I was surprised to see part of this on the area with Cablevision. That was the first big hooroo I had when I took over here as supervisor. My problem was that the company did not live up to the agreement we had until I started getting things really done. They'd say, well, if it has so many percentage, we'll put every one. But they wanted the last man to have 12,000 payment because it wasn't level on that, not equal one. I'm wondering, does this town have any of the effect that I could have at that time? Because at that time, I could back out of the thing, and they had to do what the original agreement had said. What I've been reading now in the papers is that we, the town, have very little control over what they do.
We have brought some issues to their attention. They asked, they were not, it was being a little bit difficult dealing with Cablevision. Actually, they made some concessions to us in this contract as far as revenue recognition, amount that they will allow to us for our Channel 22 services. So they have come along a bit, but I don't think we have pretty much, it's as Tom would say, it's a boilerplate
Well, I think
contract.
former Supervisor Patton's indicating that at the time you were supervisor, the town wasn't built out yet with the cable structure, and there was the...
It was expanding.
Right, and there was a
that's
performance
why
bond to build out sections, et cetera.
Oh.
And now I think under the Public Service Commission rules, we're considered to be more or less built out. So
One of the other things they did was they had, at that point, I wasn't quite qualified for a senior right, but they had a senior one that they would do that. So several people called me and said, I called them, and they say there's no senior thing, but it was written into the contract.
Yeah.
I had to go to the president of the company and say, if you don't do that, would you like to redo our agreement? And finally, they did. And then a little bit, a year later, I qualified for that. So it could be a
Well, the
personal one,
gentleman
too.
will be here from Cablevision to answer all the questions on the contract at the public hearing.
Okay, the only last thing I'll mention is I got a telephone call to get some of these. I made 146 calls over a week and never got anything other than busy signals. So better luck with them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Patton, sir, do you mind to say a couple of words about the initial contract that you...
If these people are not interested in it, we can do it privately. I don't think you have to take up a public time.
No problem.
I can talk to you anytime.
No problem. Thank you.
I would also point out, too, that since the original contracts in the communities, Congress has deregulated the cable industry, and therefore it precludes you from requiring a senior discount or controlling any of the rate structure. That's now in the open market, and the FCC has rules about that, and it's illegal for us to do it. When Sam was supervisor and these contracts first came out, you actually had all the rates in it, et cetera. But then over the years, they've
taken
eroded that, and
authority.
it's completely out of our jurisdiction now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. Anybody else like to comment on general town issues?
You got a lot of papers there, Bobby.
Going to try and make it quick. But, and actually, I was going to let some of this go, but it's not in me to let it go. I want to comment on the last meeting, last town board meeting. I probably watched that meeting about 3 or 4 times, and every time I watch it, I get a little aggravated how I feel that I did absolutely nothing wrong at that meeting, and I believe that the way you handled that meeting, John, was totally offensive to me. Same way I waited for everybody to speak now is what I do at every meeting, or at least I try to. You addressed me on a couple of occasions when you should have been addressing other people. There was a fellow by the name of Bill McCullum, if I believe I got the name right, the guy that was tired of hearing about Hillside Lake for 6 months, and he thought that I was the one that told him that his time was up. And so he turned to me and said I had my 15 minutes, and that basically I should be quiet. So you did not address him and tell him that he should direct that to the board. And I'm not one to sit back and let somebody make a jerk out of me, so I got up and I said I was not the one. That prompted 2 police officers, one in the back and one in the front, to come and address me. Had you handled that properly, that would have never transpired like that.
Okay, point taken.
Okay.
And I will review the tape.
Okay, and I appreciate that. The other thing is that, you know, that I shouldn't assume. I would think, well, on the same note of coming up speaking, as my elected official, I believe that you believe in democracy. Would that be a fair statement?
Define democracy.
Okay, well, Where I'm going with that is that, do you believe that this is a place for people to come up and voice their concerns?
I believe in freedom of speech.
That's not what I asked, John.
Okay.
I just, so that I know where I'm going with it, is
Okay.
this a place
Say it
for
again.
Is this a place, would you agree that this is a place for people to come up and voice their concerns?
This is a place for, we take public comment on general town issues.
Okay. So then when people are tired of hearing of us for 6 months or whatever, do you believe that we're still within our rights to come here and make a...
This is, we take general comments on, we take comments on general town issues, so
So then you would agree with me?
take it as you will, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Getting to the article that was in the Poughkeepsie Journal, I don't know, well, I guess you were called upon to answer something.
I got a call from a reporter, yes.
Okay. I would like to ask, you made a couple of comments in here, at least according to the paper. I don't know that you necessarily answered that way. I'm only seeing what I'm reading. But you make reference to, let me read it. It says, Town Supervisor John Hickman said the town has 9 discharges and carries salt, etc. But it alludes to that you saying, but it's more likely that phosphorus from lawn fertilizer, drainage from septics near the man-made lake, and that the cause of outgrowth and algae are the problem there. Is that something that you would have said?
I've seen that in a lot of the engineering reports, and I think that the engineers probably know what they're talking about when it comes to what they call phosphorus loading and algae bloom, yes.
It's not what I'm asking, John. I'm asking, is this the response that you gave the newspaper as your personal response?
Well, I think that's a big part of the problem.
Okay. So then I would like to challenge you to do one of 2 things. You keep, in my opinion, deceiving the public, misleading the public when you turn around and say that failed septic systems. So I would challenge you to either prove that, or I would ask that you stop deceiving the public into thinking that that is a problem for us, when in fact there is no proof of that. Is that fair? I mean,
I would like to know, in your opinion, and look, to be honest with you, we're taking public comments, so you can make your comments, and then we'll discuss, we'll respond to that, so you let me go forward.
I'm a little lost. Go ahead.
Okay. Your comment was that you would like me to prove that.
Yeah.
We have engineering reports that do indicate that, and I don't really...
There are no engineering reports that... See, you're doing it again. You're saying things that are untrue.
Okay.
It's going to take time for me to stand here. Otherwise, you're going to lead the people to believe that's true. Another thing that was said, John, you made mention that's a shallow lake. What do you consider to be what was a shallow lake? What was a shallow lake? What depth do you consider that to be a shallow lake?
Mr. Grasso, to be honest with you, this is the part of the agenda where we take public comments on general town.
So in other words, when
I am not
somebody...
going to
Go
get
ahead,
into a
Sally.
debate with you here. If you would like to talk any other time, I have no problem.
Yeah, but John, you made statements, and I think the public should know whether they're true or not. And I'm saying that they are untrue.
You're saying they're... Now, why are you saying they're untrue?
I'm going to tell you why, because, well, I want to...
And I would like it to be part of the record.
Yes, I'm going to ask you. You said that it was a shallow lake. So what was a shallow lake? At what depth was it a shallow lake?
What's your definition?
Well, I'm asking you the question.
What's your definition? You're challenging me.
Yes,
I'm asking you.
I'm challenging what you said on a couple of different occasions and how you've misspoke on several different occasions. You call it a shallow lake, and yet you're on record as saying that it was at least 7 feet, okay? Shallow to me is not 7 feet. Which one is it? Is it a shallow lake that somebody would think is like this, or is it 7 feet like you said?
The Great Eastern Environmental Ecology Report referred to Hillside Lake as shallow man-made lake. and they described many issues. That was, I think it was a 2008 report. So that's
Okay.
why I've been going by. You may disagree with it, you may disagree with me, and I wouldn't argue that fact. You can disagree with me,
all right,
that's fine.
but did you say that the lake was 17 feet?
Excuse me?
You did say that the lake was 17 feet.
When did I say that?
At one of the meetings. No, you did. There's no
When?
if. John, what do you
No, I'm
what do you
asking
want?
you
The
when.
time that you said it?
I'm just
At
asking,
one of
sir.
the meetings, John. It doesn't matter. Don't stop
No,
playing
no, no, no,
games
no. What I'm trying-
with me, when and what time. You said it. You said it was 7
Mr.
feet.
Grasso, you're going to...
See,
make
you
these
don't like
statements.
me because I get to the point.
You're going to make these statements, and I will tell you the fact that I read this in the GREE report.
John,
If you
go
please
ahead.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
Please let me finish.
Yep.
I know you're not going to agree with me, and obviously I don't agree with your thoughts on this situation either. I'm going by the report of these people who actually, that is what they do. I do think that the report, if I recall correctly, described Hillside Lake as a shallow lake. Did I say it was 7 feet? I don't recall saying specifically 7 feet. I do know that a shallow lake is considered shallow. The issue with the shallow lake is if sunlight can get to the bottom, because I've been doing some further research, but if sunlight gets to the bottom, it creates an issue with the plant growth.
Right.
And 7 feet, I do believe would qualify. I'm just going to say I would believe qualifies as a shallow lake.
Okay.
Okay? And that's all I'm going to say, because obviously, you're not going to agree with my statements. Probably not.
It's not a matter of agreeing or disagreeing. It's a matter of you saying one thing one time and something else another time.
I'm just going by what the engineering study said, and it's online.
Okay. And it's on
anybody can go
record that you
online.
said it was 7 feet. Not only that, I boated in that lake 47 years ago, and it was at least 7 feet.
Okay.
So I don't know why you would say to the newspaper that you went from 7 feet to a shallow lake as if that's what the problem is. That's it, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to speak, comment on general town issues?
I would like to address Bob.
Excuse me, you'd have to address the
Bob,
board.
through you.
Address the board, please.
One time I told you, Bob, why don't you people drain that lake and find out
Excuse me,
whose
Marty,
septics- whose septics are running into the lake and have them corrected? Bob?
Marty, address the board, please.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be an idea?
It would be a step in the right direction, I think.
Because literally there are people's septics that are going in and polluting the lake. And the only way you're going to find out is to drain the lake.
Yeah.
And then re-dam it.
Or do
fill it up again.
a septic survey
Yeah.
of all the septics around the lake. Now, one of the things that I've been trying to figure out, when I look at phosphorus loading, just, we're being that's a topic, phosphorus loading comes from different things. You see Lake Erie, they just had to shut off Lake Erie to like 500,000 people. They couldn't use the water in one of the cities because of this plume.
Yeah, sure.
And this comes from what they're finding is non-point phosphorus loading. Now, they say it comes now out there, it's coming from like farmland and fertilizer and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
running runoff.
And I'm trying to figure out where it would come from in our area. And the only thing, one of the things, and this is only my thought, I would never say this is cast in stone, I would never say this is a point, but I would wonder, washing machines, everybody's got a clothes washer, discharges into something, goes into a sump, goes into a septic. That actually also, in my mind, may play a part in this whole thing. I feel that the Hillside Lake issue is much more complex than just a simple that, but
You're right,
it's
Bob.
my thought.
You're right, Bob, but my point still holds.
Okay, thank you, Marty.
Drain the lake and find out where it's coming from.
All right, do I have a motion to close the close the town board meeting?
One more comment, please. Real quick.
Certainly.
For the record, there is no actual proof of any septic going into Hillside Lake. From what I understand, there is no septic. Engineer reports and everything else indicate the complete opposite. So when people get up here and make assumptions like that and start degrading the neighborhood or the lake in that aspect, I would be careful about saying things like that.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, before we go tonight, I do want to make one announcement. The Wikipedia Fire Company is going to have their steak roast. That will be on September 7th. And don't forget Community Day.
September 13th.
September 13th. And the rain date being September 14th?
14th.
Okay. So Wikipedia Steak Roast, they support our local firefighters and first responders and Community Day. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor of closing the town board meeting say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.